Good afternoon, 49er faithful. Welcome to another episode of the Hammer and Shoe Show. I'm your host, Rob Shoe. That's my co-host, Jack Hammer of the Santa Rosa Press Democrat. Jack, how are you doing this fine Friday afternoon where we finally have at least a few teasers from the San Francisco 49ers about some actual news?
I'm doing good. It's Friday, and I am looking forward to the weekend. How are you doing, Rob?
I'm fantastic, man. I was just telling you before the start of the show, I'm pretty amped about the idea of going to the Combine next week. I'm a little flustered about how I'm going to cover it and what it's going to be like, but it's a good nervousness of like, okay, I got to make sure that I get real value out of this experience and not just go there and have a blast, with my eyes wide open, trying to soak everything in. Not to say that that would be a complete waste in and of itself, just to get the life experience out of it.
Yeah, no, that sounds like it's going to be a blast. I know Kyle Shanahan won't be speaking, but John Lynch will be. So that'll be good. That'll be some 49er tie-ins for you to get that information. And it'll be, you have your guys who you might be looking at in the draft. So you'll be able to give us some on the ground experience as far as what they look like in their workouts. That'd be awesome to hear.
Yes. Firsthand information seen by these two eyes in person. It's going to be very exciting. I will definitely attempt to pass along the experience of being there, along with any insights that I gain from the actual experience itself. But we do have actual news to talk about today. February is a slow month, and things have trickled out from the San Francisco 49ers. And some of what we'll be covering today is maybe borderline rumor as opposed to actual news. But regardless of what it is, it's refreshing to have something that isn't totally quarterback based, where we can branch away from the Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo, will they, won't they type of a debate.
Yeah, no, there's always, that's one of the fun things about the 49ers. You can go through a week and not know what you're going to write on in any given day. And usually they're going to give you some nugget to throw out there on a regular basis. And that's part of the fun thing about talking about them so much.
Yes, it is. Hello to everyone in the chat. We have an active group in there and doing the good work of talking about hitting the like button. I say it every time in this offseason. The like button is my friend right now. If you do enjoy the content, please consider hitting that like button. And oh, by the way, my fantastic guest, Jack, all of his information is down below. How to follow him on Twitter, how to subscribe to his YouTube channel, how to go and bookmark his Press Democrat website that you should be on all the time, daily, every single day. Great content coming out on the regular. So go down there and make that happen. But Jack, let's get into something that makes me a little bit sad to even broach as a topic, and that is Bobby Turner. So this comes up because Vish Kumaran on Twitter called out that as of today, and someone else refuted that as of this morning, it was different. As of today, you can no longer find Bobby Turner's profile on the San Francisco 49ers coaching landing page. So that description of Bobby Turner and his coaching history is no longer there. Whether it was there this morning or not, it certainly was there last week because you yourself were looking at that page. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, it was definitely there last week because I was looking up to get some information on James Beckter for the article that I was writing about him leaving to go to Cincinnati, and I saw Bobby Turner's information on there. He was one of the coaches that was there. And then I saw the tweet that you mentioned from Vish and went and checked it out. And yeah, he wasn't there. And there's been no information at all on that one. So a little nervous of what that might end up resulting in.
Exactly. I mean, if one had to speculate, you would think that that's the precursor to the 49ers coming out with some news. Now, I will be quite transparent about the fact that that's not a certainty, that it's entirely possible someone accidentally deleted the profile when editing something else, right? There could be an intern in charge of this page that has just made a catastrophic error that is causing us to talk about this. But one would guess that the most probable reason for it is that Bobby Turner is contemplating or going to retire, and in that case would be a huge loss for the San Francisco 49ers. So, Jack, in thinking about it, would you agree that that's the most likely scenario, that that's the reason behind Bobby Turner's profile being removed from that page? And if that's the case, or regardless of whether that's the case, if he were to leave, how big of a loss do you feel that would be for the San Francisco 49ers?
Yeah, if it is that he's not going to be back, and it's not just them updating the page or something like that, and he is out, hopefully it's because of a retirement, which I could see at his age. He's I think he's 73.
72, yeah, coming up on 73.
Yeah, so I can understand wanting to step away. Football is a very tiring sport to coach in terms of just the amount of time hours that you're putting into it and the work on the field and everything else. And if that's what he decides that he wants to step away, it's a big loss for the 49ers. Bobby Turner is a guy that's been around the league for a long time, been around the Shanahans as long as I can remember. And the only positive that I could say is if he is no longer there, that would make some sense as to why they brought in Anthony Lynn outside of just to be the run game coordinator. Maybe he's going to be the running back coach, and who knows what, because there was really no title given yet, and the 49ers haven't even made it official.
Yeah, it would explain why they slow played that title coming out for Anthony Lynn. Jamal Armstrong, also a gentleman that's going to be on the program next week. Looking forward to that, Jamal. If Bobby is out, makes the Anthony Lynn hire that much more clutch/important. I totally agree with both of you on this take that the Anthony Lynn hire to me was a critical hire regardless. If Bobby Turner were to retire, that would be an essential hire, an essential replacement to have someone of that caliber coming in. But even so, I still would like to take a moment to tip my cap to Bobby Turner and refresh people's memories on just what type of value Bobby adds to the organization. He is instrumental in the 49ers continually finding these late round and undrafted free agent running backs. Why? Because the man is relentless in his pursuit of those running backs. This is what I have read up on Bobby Turner that I want to share. And Jack, if you feel any of this is out of turn, please correct me on some of the details of this. But as I understand it, Bobby Turner is a maniacal draft prep specialist. So he goes through and creates his board of all the backs that he wants to get more information about, and then calls them religiously and sets up times for them to call him back. And if they miss that time, if he sets up a time to get a call from a running back and doesn't get it, that can totally throw off his impression of that young gentleman. It's sort of for him a test of that person's character. And as I understand it as well, he's contacting friends, family. I mean, he is just constantly on the phone, old school. Unlike anyone, he's actually picking up the phone and dialing. So to me, that is a huge loss if the 49ers no longer have that stage in their draft preparation.
Yeah, we know that that's the fact, but that's one of the things that Elijah Mitchell talked about it, after he was drafted, was the number of time conversations that he had with Bobby Turner during the whole draft process. I think we heard the same from Trey, not Trey Lance, but Trey Sermon when he was drafted. So, he's really good at what he does there. He knows what he wants what he needs from his running back, the type of person, the type of athlete, the abilities that they need to have. And if he's no longer there, it will be a big loss for the 49ers.
Just bringing in a couple of comments of folks bringing up Bobby Turner. We've got Ashley coming in the building at Rob. I listened to this interview mid-season of Mitchell talking about how grateful he was for the preparation Turner gave him, how he wasn't supposed to play right away and was overwhelmed by the playbook at first, but that Turner gave him confidence and helped him to feel prepared and grow each week. Hope he stays. I hope so as well. I mean, it's a big loss if he goes, and because it's most likely, if he does leave, a retirement leaving, it's hard to fault him. A man 72, borderline, coming up on his 73rd birthday, whenever that may be for Bobby. I would get it if he needed to walk away from the organization at that age. Quite frankly, it's almost surprising that he's been able to stick around as long as he has with how grueling the NFL schedule is.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. 70 to be doing it, what he's doing at for as long as he's been able to do it, that's extremely impressive and something a lot of folks can't even keep up those type of hours. So the fact that he's been doing it and his players respect him so much really shows the outstanding job that he's done. Just
in anticipation, cheers, Bobby Turner. This one's for you, just in case you do retire. I have nothing but respect for you either way. A wonderful, wonderful career. Bringing in a couple of comments here. Jamie has a question at Rob Shue. What's up with us losing so many of our coaches? Is there a changing of the guards? Does Jed York and Denise know something we don't? Coming in from Jamie Bryant. Jamie, my answer would be, I don't think so. I don't think it signifies anything other than, well, that's not true. It may signify some things. My thinking of what it most signifies is a coaching regime that produces sought-after assistant coaches, that it is Kyle Shanahan creating this draw for other people to come and poach his coaches, and him doing a great job of preparing his assistant coaches to take on more responsibility. So I would look at that first and foremost. But I get if people want to speculate about some assistant coaches maybe being a little more supportive of Jimmy Garoppolo and less of Trey, but I try not to get into that type of a speculation. To me, it's more about the appeal of the Coach Shanahan coaching tree. How do you see it, Jack?
Can I go big time speculative on this one?
Yes, you can. Absolutely. Take a big cut at this one. Wait, do we want to go tinfoil hat? I made this the other day.
Well, you might want to keep that one on. But here's the thing. We've seen this regime, meaning the ownership, struggle with coaches who have been successful when they don't get it done and get to the big game and win in the big game. And one of the things that typically will happen when there starts to be issues between the coach and the owner, or there starts to be some kind of rumbling, is that it usually signifies the assistant coaches are the ones that turn over first, and there's changes in the way that in that group, and then depending on the results from that point, then that's when the head coach and general manager are escorted and changed and things like that. So, not saying that he's necessarily on the hot seat at this moment, but there might be some things going on in the background that we're not aware of, because all of a sudden Bobby Turner's leaving. You have a number of coaches that have left for, you have, Mike McDaniel obviously gets a promotion, but you also have a lot of coaches that are leaving for lateral moves.
Yeah.
Meaning that the 49ers are letting them go without trying to keep them. And so that shows that they're trying to turn over their coaching staff a little bit. And so do I think that Shanahan's on the hot seat? He might be a little bit more than people realize, even though they just went to the NFC Championship game, and I like the job that he did. If this thing goes south in 2022 and it's Trey Lance at quarterback, then things are going to get interesting in San Francisco, I think.
Wow. I like that tinfoil hat segment. I think there's something to that, because you're absolutely right in what the turnover of assistant coaches can often mean within the NFL. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's what's going to follow here in San Francisco. But in looking back at trends that do exist, historically speaking, that's absolutely a factual observation. And it would be interesting. I mean, there is a big shift happening to the Lance era. And if you were going to change things up, you would probably want to do it early on in his tenure, as opposed to letting him get a couple of years in, then pulling the cord. That'll be interesting to watch. Now, I think the Golden Fang is in here agreeing with you, but also asking why you think Lynn is in. And I think implicating there that Lynn could be seen as that next head coach already in the building if, in fact, things went south. And again, I don't think you're predicting that things will go south. I think what you're saying is it could be a little warmer than what people imagine it is. Would you see it as such, that Anthony Lynn could serve as that interim head coach or that next coach? Or do you think it was Kyle Shanahan that brought in Lynn to help with the run game, and that doesn't fit into the conspiracy theory narrative?
I don't think that they have somebody on their staff that they're going to want to bring in, or, that they're going to want to pull up and have them become the head coach. And I'm including Anthony Lynn in this at this point. We don't know what his role is right now for sure. Would they want to move on from Kyle Shanahan to DeMeco Ryans? That doesn't really fit their mold of what they've done. Usually it's always a big drastic change. And, that could be part of the reason why we're hearing John Lynch not rule out the fact that, he's long-term tied to the 49ers.
That's interesting. Very interesting. Certainly that would bring the John Lynch quote into perspective there. EMA Beats coming in at Rob Shue. Sean McVay blocked an assistant from getting interviewed and taken. Why is Kyle not protecting any of our coaches? Does that not bring possible decline in those particular areas? I think some of these, in answer to this EMA Beats, my opinion would be some of these were agreed upon between Mike McDaniel and Kyle Shanahan as a way in which Kyle Shanahan can support Mike McDaniel in fleshing out his staff. I would say that the John Embry decision was one where they knew they were taking away the title and were okay with him not returning and thus lowballed him with the salary offer. A couple of these were lateral moves. Certainly the Wes Welker move was lateral, but again, I feel that would have been a gentleman's agreement between Kyle Shanahan and Mike McDaniel. I see most of these being acceptable losses for Kyle Shanahan. The one that's interesting that I applaud is one that we'll talk about in just a moment is the Rich Scangarello news that came out and wanting to replace your quarterbacks coach. But my assumption is that most of these were not objected to because of the pre-existing agreement between Kyle Shanahan and Mike McDaniel. How do you see it, Jack?
You could be right. It could be that there was some kind of an agreement between them. I don't necessarily feel that's the case. I mean, the way that the information came out on John Embry doesn't make it seem like there was any kind of an agreement there that they wanted that to be done, because otherwise, why would Embry let that report come out the way that it did?
Right.
So the smoking gun here is all pointing towards them needing to make changes because of some type of pressure that's being pressed down, and it always starts with the assistants, and it rolls up to the head coach and the general manager at the end. And so that's the only thing that I can come back to. I don't think that I don't feel like there was really a gentleman's agreement. I understand that it might be at the best interest for Wes Welker to go back there, but you're in the business of winning in the NFL, and you're not in the business of saying, well, you know what, I'd like you, so I'm just going to go ahead and let you go over there, and I'm not going to fight for you if you're doing the job that I like. Maybe, so maybe there's some pressure, maybe that they don't like him. There's a lot of different things, but that's kind of the way that I'm looking at this right now.
I like it. A nuanced view of it. MILF Hunter coming in. Turner is 72, post-retirement age. Nowadays, I feel like retirement's getting later and later. But yes, he is 72, and so it would not be unusual for him to be considering retirement. I hope that by the time I reach 72, I am retired. I think it's more likely I'll be dead and gone. But if not, then hopefully retired.
Happy hunting there too. Yeah. By the way,
what's that?
I said happy hunting there. By the way, too.
Yes. Exactly. The best to you, Mr. Hunter. Tom Jensen coming in at Rob. Lynn hiring from the outside with Shanahan, not promoting from within, may have contributed to the lateral exits. Any of the lateral exits Shanahan could have blocked, and so he didn't. Therefore, I would assume he's allowing them to leave. And it's either because he's not happy with the job that they're doing, or, he had another candidate that he had in mind, wanted to bring them in for that promotion. Yeah. Isaac coming in at Rob Shue, Pep Hamilton for quarterback coach and or offensive coordinator. I'd love that, but I think he has been promoted to offensive coordinator in Houston. And so he is now taken. That is correct, isn't it, Jack?
It is.
I thought so. All right. Let's get to this 49ers first takes. Aaron coming in. You guys got to stop spoiling us with this super team collaboration. Two goats at the same time. Greatness overload. Aaron, that is too kind of you. I appreciate that. All right.
We're doing that tomorrow, Aaron. Come on now.
Let us transition here to another piece of rumor news that came out today. This one by Jennifer Chan reporting that Raheem Mostert's agent has indicated to her the 49ers have been in touch. There is communication happening between the Niners and Raheem Mostert's camp. Jack, first and foremost, is that a good thing?
I think it's a good thing. I really feel like the 49ers need to bring Raheem Mostert back. They need that explosiveness in the backfield, especially with Deebo Samuel being the person who had to take his spot, and Deebo Samuel's up for a big contract here. And You don't want to be having your $23 million wide receiver spending, a quarter of his time at running back and running in the middle of the defensive line. That's not good for his long-term health in the NFL. So I would think that getting Mostert would be important to the 49ers, as long as it's done on a deal that isn't overly expensive, and it's maybe, like a, whatever it is, say a $3 million a year, a $3 million deal, but it's not guaranteed, because that way, if he's injured, they can get out of it, those kind of things. So I definitely believe that there is a spot for Mostert on this team. And if they just play it right, they can hopefully get through a season with them.
Yeah, to me, this would be fantastic news. I agree that it would be a perfect fit for the San Francisco 49ers to have Elijah Mitchell carrying the bulk of the carries, and then having Raheem Mostert as that 1-2 punch with Elijah Mitchell. There's no one that runs this zone, the way in which Mostert is able to hit those holes, the way in which his vision, his speed, that rare combination of factors come together so nicely within Kyle Shanahan's offense. And to me, it would be sort of a no-brainer. You're getting him back on a 1-year deal. The only sticking point is the money, and clearly that could be a sticking point. Raheem Mostert held out for a larger contract. You might assume that he may have a little bad taste in his mouth from the injury and the response that his wife got from some fans when she came on social media and indicated that she had been receiving some very negative messages from some Niner faithful, which was highly disappointing to me. But I do think that the outpouring of support that came from that probably negated any negative feelings that they would have had from that negativity. No better way to put it. So to me, this is an encouraging sign, and this would be something I would work to do. I'm hesitant to overpay. I'm hesitant to give considerable guaranteed money. Do you think that there's going to be much of a market for Mostert, or will it be pretty soft and the Niners have the upper hand in negotiations?
I would think that at this point in Mostert's career, given the injury history of the last couple of years, that the market is probably going to be a lot softer for him now than it might have been in 2019, after he had the big finish to the year, that's when he had all the contract issues, right? Was after that the explosion in the championship game and so on. So if at this point, I just wouldn't be able to see, I just don't expect to see a big market for him given the injury history. Although, we see that there's potential there. I just don't see a big market where somebody's going to come out off the side and throw a number at him that we would just blow everybody away.
I just can't imagine many multi-year offers given the injury history, given the limited amount of success that he had, the small window of success, and the fact that it seemed somewhat system dependent in that he didn't find that success elsewhere. Some coaches may see it as Kyle Shanahan's system, first and foremost. In transitioning, got to bring in a couple of comments here. Bay Area Baller. This would definitely be my grandpa's favorite YouTube show. Just taking the shot at us, Jack. Can we stand for that? Like, I almost feel like we got to bring Bay Area on here next week and kick him in the shins a little bit.
Hit him with my cane. What are you talking about? Grandpa's favorite YouTube show. Wow.
Man.
I thought we were friends, Eric. No wonder you don't call him my show anymore.
Yeah. With friends like these, Jack, who needs enemies?
That's right.
Mac Def. This was a fun one for me. I went into Nordstrom the other day to pick up some fresh duds because I'm going to the combine and, got to look sharp, got to look the part. And I'm walking in the door, and from behind me, I hear somebody say, "Dude, do you have a YouTube show?" And I was like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? So Mac Def, salute, Rob. We met this week at Nordstrom's. Mac Def, nice to see you in the chat. Yes, we did meet at Nordstrom. That was a fantastic experience for me. I was taken aback it's one thing when I was at the Rams game in the NFC Championship and a couple of people came up and recognized me. That I was prepared for, right? It's at a setting where my people are there. But to be in Portland, Oregon at a Nordstrom, I was just not expecting someone to recognize me. So it made my day. Mac Def, you made my day.
Yeah, that's awesome. I had that happen about 2 or 3 months ago. I went to Safeway. I was getting some groceries. I'm standing in line. There's a guy that I knew from the gym, and he looks at me for a minute. He goes, "Hey, I need to talk to you." And I was like, "What's going on?" And he says, I saw a guy that looks just like you. He was doing a YouTube show with his writer. And it looked, like I said to tell you, though, it looked just like you. And I said, well, yeah, who were you watching? And he said, Grant. I said, well, yeah, that was me.
That is me.
There's
a reason it resembles me.
Yeah, so we ended up having a good conversation. He had some good pointers for me.
I love it. I absolutely love the interaction. I am all about it, Jack, and I know you are too. MILF Hunter coming back in, delaying the hunt again. Mostert missed 26 games the last 2 seasons. He's glass. It's a fair criticism. It's an unfriendly way to say it. It's not a kind way to say it, MILF Hunter, but I get the criticism, and I do think that's why Mostert will most likely be looking at a 1-year deal and probably will be a reasonable cap hit in that. I can't imagine. I saw the number 5 million floated on Twitter. I can't imagine him getting a $5 million contract. I will be surprised if it's 4.
Yeah, those 4 or 5 million. I mean, that's to me, that's crazy talk considering his contract that he had right now paid him 3.5.
Right.
He's only played out of 33 games. He's played 26. So yeah, I don't see how you all of a sudden get to 5, but hey, that's what drives conversation. You kind of throw a number out there and let people argue it out.
That's right. It's a starting point. It is a starting point. I'm going to bring in Mac Def because he made my day the other day. Should we get Stephon Gilmore or J.C. Jackson in free agency at corner? I'm going to say no to J.C. Jackson because he's going to get $18 to $20 million a year, and we just don't invest that in corners. But we will talk about Stephon Gilmore later in a segment coming up. So I will hold off on throwing that one to Jack just yet. Let's transition into one of our last one of our last rumor topics here. And this one's quick because it's not the Niners, but it's the NFC West. And this is very similar to the Kyler Murray situation where Kyler removed the Cardinals from his social media pages. I heard today that Russell Wilson has removed the Seahawks from his Twitter page. Jack, what do these types of moves by players mean to you in general?
I don't know what to make of it. It's an interesting thing to be like, I'm not happy with you, so I'm just going to take all of my 49er stuff down from my Twitter or my Instagram or whatever they are. It's interesting to me that becomes a story. We haven't really heard a whole lot about Russell Wilson so far this offseason. There hasn't really been any reports out of his camp or any other things that he really wants to move on. So maybe this is the start of him, trying to get his name out there and force a change in Seattle.
Yeah, I feel in the Kyler Murray situation, it made sense to me because of the personality type that Kyler has. He strikes me more as an Aaron Rodgers type of personality, and I do mean that as a negative. But with Russell Wilson, he's been such a team-first guy. I would make more of this than I would of the Kyler Murray situation, because with Kyler, I see it as a negotiation tactic. This, to me, I thought Russell Wilson was back for sure with the trend of things with Pete Carroll indicating that he's not going anywhere and with zero movement occurring there. It just sounded to me like we were going to see Russell Wilson back. This type of a move by a savvy veteran like Russell Wilson signifies to me that maybe I jumped on that he'll be back bandwagon a bit too soon. And this is certainly Russell Wilson expressing displeasure in some way.
Yeah, it could be. That's what, we don't know at this point. We know what went down last year as far as there definitely seemed to be some back and forth with him. It's interesting because people talk about him being a team first guy, but then you talk to somebody like Richard Sherman and he doesn't really make it seem like he's all that much of a team first guy.
No,
there's definitely I think when it comes to Russell Wilson, there's definitely a persona that he tries to portray. I got into a back and forth with somebody on Twitter earlier this year when Russell Wilson was out there, with the thumb injury and was acting like he was working through plays and what have you. And they were saying, look at this leader that's out there doing this compared to Jimmy Garoppolo, who's sitting up in the booth. Right. And I just feel like there's something with Russell Wilson that doesn't quite mesh up with when you look at his results over the last couple of years and what's happened once he started getting paid. You would think that maybe he needs to take a look at Tom Brady and reel it in a little bit.
Reel it in a little bit. I'm with you on that. All right, we got 2 super chats I'm bringing in. This one's relevant to the conversation we just had, so I'm going with this one first. But don't worry, the other guy whose name is fantastic is coming in, and we will spend some time on that. Dean 49erks, I think that's 49erks. To me, removing your team is childish. When it's like when you would move someone lower on your top 8 on MySpace. Goodness gracious, that is a good reference. And definitely similar. Yes, for those not familiar, MySpace had like your top 8. It was the little images of your 8 best friends, and you could move them. You could rearrange. And so, yeah, if you went top left corner, that was the number 1 spot, right? But if things went badly, maybe you drop them down a few notches. It does. To me, it feels a little childish. It's a strange maneuver. If I'm the fan base too, it just hurts a little bit, right? It's just like you stick the dagger in me and turn it a little bit.
Yeah, and look at Dean. I mean, he comes in. He's obviously in our demographic, going with MySpace as his reference. That's fantastic.
He's got his cane there too. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I never even went on MySpace. I remember somebody mentioning MySpace to me at one point. And I was like, "What's MySpace?" And before I knew it, Facebook was here. So, yeah, yeah. I think it's a childish thing. I think it probably does have more to do with kind of needling the fan base and getting the fan base riled up and trying to get them on one side or the other. But we'll see what happens with it.
Yes, we will. And by the way, I've started a TikTok page, Jack, but I just don't know what to do with it. I don't even know where to begin. Like, yes, I have one now, but I need suggestions from the audience. You guys let me know. What the hell is TikTok really all about for a guy like me?
You've got a face made for TV. I almost said. Do you hear what I almost said right there?
Yeah, I almost said that you have a face. Though I have a face made for radio, Jack. Just be honest about it. If it weren't for the golden voice, this career would be headed down the toilet.
That's awful. No, that's not what I bet. But yeah, I think that TikTok is definitely something that I've been thinking about doing something there too. My girlfriend tells me I need to get on there. So maybe by the time training camp rolls around, I'll figure out how to get it on my phone and actually use the thing.
Figure out what we got to do there. All right, Fook Me is coming in the building. Fook me, no fook you.
This sounds like Gavin's cousin. The way that
yes. Can you think of a great quarterback where people debated if he was ready like this? You know or you don't know quickly. You know or don't know quickly. It's been a year and still all this doubt. No idea why people think he's going to be good. Oh, interesting. I thought that was going to come from the other angle of, I don't know why people are questioning Lance to this extent. I mean, to me, it matches up with basically what we've been told since day one. Not since the trade, because the trade signified one thing, and I agree with Steve Young. That sent the message that you're trading for a perennial all-pro. What they gave up, where they selected him, it made you have certain expectations for Lance contributing right away. But everything that they have said since then about how they plan to develop him, how they cherished this opportunity they had with Jimmy Garoppolo to start the entire year so that they could give Lance this long runway to get ready, they've stuck pretty true to their game plan. So I don't read into all of the noise we're hearing from the outside. To me, Jack, the truth is going to be told on the field, and we just have to wait. I know that kills people, but we just have to wait until we see this next season. But I'm very optimistic. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I'll answer his question when he says, can you think of a great quarterback who people debated like this? And the answer to that is Patrick Mahomes. They did the same thing with Patrick Mahomes in 2017 going into 2018 for the same reasons that people are saying this now about Trey Lance. He didn't play, so nobody knows what's going on with him. You know, when you sit back and you watch what Mahomes did in the last game of that 2017 season, he played pretty darn well there, and then he had that full season to get ready to go, and he was good in 2018. Took the Chiefs all the way to the championship game in the AFC. So I think that would be, as far as his question, you know, that's your most recent, Patrick Mahomes. And I think a lot of people have pointed to the 49ers pattern and what they're doing here being similar to that, even though the 49ers kind of say no. It sure seems like they're following that path. It
does. All right, we're on to our next topic, but Bay Area Baller just wants to say, I want to see Rob's dance moves on TikTok. Bay Area Baller, no, you do not.
Dude,
Trust me on that one.
they're about no. He doesn't have the hammer moves like I had on my show.
Oh
back
my
during the
God. I
season.
saw those moves and they were epic. That would be Jack, you would be a freaking million views on TikTok with that dance right there. You got to find that video. That is your first TikTok already. You problem solved for you, bro.
There you go. There you go.
Unbelievable. Jay Tan coming in. My top 8 49ers are Fred, Nick, Debo, Trent, George, Ayuk, Lance, and Juice. And he would move those around in MySpace depending on who was nicer to him in that week. I think that's how everybody should do
fantastic.
it. All right, let's talk a little bit about replacing Rich Scangarello. And I'll be honest that I'm so well versed on Rich that I continually called him Scangarello instead of Scangarello for the longest time. And it wasn't until writing out his name today on his way out of town to the University of Kentucky that I actually got it correct. So this one came out, the Tom Pelissero tweet, which I'll just read, was reported this morning. The University of Kentucky is hiring 49ers quarterbacks coach Rich Scangarello as its new offensive coordinator. Per sources, a widely respected quarterback developer, Scangarello replaces Liam Cohen. So yada, yada, yada for the rest of that. That's the line I'm interested in because there's been a lot of heat from 49er faithful. Good riddance. Get Rich out of here. Thank God he's gone. So the hate is there. And I would question that line, a widely respected quarterback developer. I can't say that I'm not familiar with a quarterback that he has had a strong hand in developing. So my question to you is, do you believe him to be a widely respected quarterback developer? And why even if he's not, why does he get this level of disdain from 49er faithful?
Well, let's break that up and let's focus on the first part of that question first. And
Yes,
we'll get
please.
back to the disdain part after. But Scangarello is a guy who, from what I saw after kind of this came out and looking through some things, he actually worked with Quarterback Collective. So Quarterback Collective, one of those groups that we've been hearing a lot about over the last year with Justin Fields having gone there, and they're really starting to push their brand. Kyle Shanahan's very involved with them. Sean McVay. And so he's worked with them, working with those younger players. So from that standpoint, it makes sense for him maybe to go back to the college level. In terms of who he's developed at the NFL level, I think when it comes to the NFL, what people are mostly going to point to was what he did in 2017 with Jimmy Garoppolo, getting him ready to play. Beyond that, it's really hard. I don't understand. I'll let you, maybe I'll let you go this because I don't understand the negativity around him, or I guess the vitriol when people being so excited about this guy, not coming back.
I honestly don't get it. I mean, it is definitely there, right? Greg Thames coming in, one of my sneakerheads here on the channel. Rich is out, yay, and that is a heck load of exclamation points driving home that point of excitement around it. And I saw around Twitter, I mean, I'm not singling out Greg here. I saw a lot of people very excited about it and a lot of folks whose opinions I respect. For me, I found myself very much in the middle of, I didn't see him as a high caliber offensive quarterbacks coach. I didn't agree with that second line of the tweet, a widely respected quarterback developer. I just didn't see the track record of success, and therefore I was skeptical. But skepticism is a long ways off from feeling extremely negative towards the individual and feeling passionately that he was in some way dragging down the quarterback room. To me, I would be excited by a bigger name coming in, but not because of Rich Scangarello being on the way out, mainly just because I do think there are some names out there that would be intriguing that feel like an upgrade. When I see the Chiefs going out and hiring Matt Nagy as a senior assistant and quarterback coach, to me, that's a strong move. That's bringing in an ex-head coach, an ex-offensive coordinator, a strong offensive mind. That brings in a powerful presence. That's akin to bringing in Anthony Lynn to help out in the run game. So I would love the 49ers to make a strong move like that, an Anthony Lynn level hire for the quarterback coach.
Yeah, and the interesting piece with the fact that one of the, what you hear about with Scangarello is he hasn't developed anybody, but he wasn't here from 2019 to 2020. He wasn't here for those 2 years. He was here
Right.
in 17 and 18. He was off doing his own thing in 19 and 20, and he was only here for 1 year. And to have for people, who was he supposed to develop other than getting Garoppolo to play in 17? And then in 18, Garoppolo gets hurt 3 games into the season. And by the end of 2018, there's people who are saying that Nick Mullins should be in consideration to take over Jimmy Garoppolo's job. Who was it that liked Nick Mullins? Who was it that coached up Nick Mullins? It was Rich Scangarello. Scangarello is the one who went to Kyle Shanahan and said, I think we should sign this guy and bring him in as give him a shot on the practice squad and see where he goes. And they didn't trade him. They ended up releasing him because of the injury and so on. But, he found somebody that the 49ers felt was good enough to keep around for 4 years. And Kyle Shanahan constantly talked about as being one of the smartest guys in the room at the quarterback position. And then, did CJ Beathard get better while he was here? He was better in 2020 than he was in 2017. We know that by watching what he did on the field. So, I don't know. And also in 2020, it wasn't Scangarello that was coaching him up either, right? It was somebody else by that point. But
right,
I don't know. I just don't understand the vitriol towards him. It doesn't. No. It's weird to me. I said that on Twitter today. I just weird the whole thing. In terms of replacing him, I think I wrote an article today, and it makes sense. The guy that you replace him with is John Beck. You already have your quarterback going down to work with Beck during this offseason. It makes total sense to bring him in and have him continue that work with him during the season. You don't necessarily need to make that hire right away. If you know that that's kind of the direction you want to take, you can let him go out there, do that work, and then bring him in. It worked out well for the Jets last year. Beck worked quite a bit with their quarterback, Zach Wilson, leading up to the draft. And then they brought him in week 7 of the season. And when you look at the numbers for Wilson before and after the Beck was on the staff with them, they were better numbers in the second half of the season after he came back from his injury.
I mean, I'm excited about that potential because I like the idea of the continuity of Trey working with him on his throwing mechanics in the offseason and then just bleeding that right into the regular season. To me, that has appeal. This is an interesting one from Dean 49ers coming in. I think people are excited about it mainly because it's a for sure sign Jimmy G is gone since he's been the one developing Jimmy G. I could see some people associating that Rich Scangarello was brought back in to work with Jimmy Garoppolo in this season, and that his departure could signal the Niners looking for a quarterback coach specifically for Trey Lance. That makes a little bit of sense, but I get the impression that it goes deeper than that for a lot of people. And I'm with you, Jack. I don't actually understand the vitriol.
No, well, I did see some tweets today regarding this, where it's that maybe Scangarello wasn't the biggest supporter of Trey Lance pre-draft, that he wanted to go more of the Mac Jones route. He was right. was pushing more for Mac Jones. At the end of the day, if that's why you're going to be upset about somebody, you have to realize that he didn't go into that job in 2021 and feel like he was going to coach Lance any differently than he was going to coach Mac Jones if that had been the choice. So, it is what it is, and if they can bring him back, like you said, I think that makes a ton of sense. It's somebody that's done it, and I think he worked with them a little bit last year, but if they work together even more, it'll be really good for them.
Yes, I agree. And I would say the name that's been thrown around in-house, if it's an in-house promotion, is Bobby Slowick as potentially being a candidate for either quarterback's coach or offensive coordinator. We shall see whether they want to go in-house or bring in John Beck. In my opinion, between those two, I would go the John Beck route myself, and it sounds like that is your preference as well, Jack. Just to get to a couple of comments, Drew coming in, did I miss the Bobby Turner talk? Yes, you did, but to sum it up for you, Bobby Turner, he is no longer on the coaching page, the landing page for the San Francisco 49ers. His coaching profile was removed. It is speculation as to whether that actually means he is on the verge of a retirement, but he is 72 years old. It would be a big loss for the 49ers, but, the type of loss that you have to live with. The man is 72. If he wants to retire, he is entitled to do so. All right, let us transition to the next topic here. Richard Sherman throwing some gas on the fire, putting out just a little feeler that says, after speaking with Stephon Gilmore, he believes Stephon Gilmore is headed out west. Richard Sherman indicating that would either be the San Francisco 49ers or the Seattle Seahawks. To me, if I'm choosing between those two teams, and I'm 32 years old, as Stephon Gilmore is, I think I'd prioritize the team that has a better shot at winning now, not the one that appears to be in a rebuild. Am I wrong about that? Is Stephon Gilmore going to be more interested in the payday, Jack? What's your opinion on it?
No, if you're asking me, if I was Stephon Gilmore, I'd rather go to the team that's looking like they might be able to win this season, and for the and for the foreseeable future with the the quarterback situation's right. They have a number of their top talent that's going to be around for a while. I've said for a bit here that I feel like the 49ers core is stronger now. Last year I didn't feel like they were, but after watching them play this year and kind of the way that they're able to build around it, as long as the quarterback is healthy, I think the 49ers are going to be okay. And that's what's been holding them back. And if I was Stephon Gilmore, I'd definitely rather come to the 49ers and go up to Seattle and play in all that wet, cold, and rain every week.
Yeah, who wants to live in the Pacific Northwest? God, it's so bad up there. Oh, wait, I do.
Bunch of yahoos.
I love living up in Portland. The Golden Fang coming in. 49ers love their old cornerbacks. They do. And more important than that, they love value at the cornerback position. And of the top 5 or 6 free agent cornerbacks available in this market, it's my opinion that Stephon Gilmore has the greatest chance of being a value for his next team because of 2 strikes against him. He's 32 years old, as I just mentioned, and he's coming off of an injury last year. So if there's someone who's going to be more affordable, I would think Stephon Gilmore would be in that boat.
Yeah, and maybe Richard Sherman can be doing some selling for him for the 49ers as well. He's a guy who at an age about where Gilmore is right now came and took the chance to join the 49ers and went to the Super Bowl. In the second to last year that he was here. So in his second year here. So that'll be that, or third year. I don't remember whatever year it was that he was with the 49ers and they went to the Super Bowl with him. But maybe he's helping him out. Hey,
I would appreciate that, Sherm. I would appreciate it. Would be a small token in return for the ill will I still hold for that one incident. You know what I'm talking about, Richard. You know what I'm talking about. All right, Drew comes back in to ask a quick one. Flip the coin, Gilmore or Verrett? Asking me, so I'll answer first. I would say both. To me, Verrett is like, you're only bringing him back in if it is a very inexpensive 1-year deal. He's got to do another prove it deal. The injuries have just piled up on the fine gentleman, and that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. To me, you can't build out the room with him. You can add him to the room once it's already built, and if he makes it through the entire season, it's found gold in my book.
Absolutely. If you bring in a guy like Gilmore, it doesn't mean you don't bring in Verrett. Verrett's not at a position where he's going to really be able to go out and drive anything in the market. At least I don't think he is, given his injury history and whatnot. And, the 49ers need to get to 90 guys on their roster. So why not bring in a guy like Verrett, let him try to earn his job or earn a role on the team? And if he can, then you're so much better for it.
Yes, indeed. So much better for it. If you had both of those guys in this room, oh my goodness, that would actually be a pretty sweet cornerback room. Ender coming in just to clarify on the Seahawks situation. Seahawks have a lot of salary cap. Think they have top 10 in cap space, but then goes on to elaborate that he believes, or they believe, that the Seahawks will prioritize bringing back DJ Reed. Don't think they'll sign 2 high free agent cornerbacks. That would be the other individual that I would be looking at if I'm the San Francisco 49ers. I like both Gilmore and DJ Reed as candidates because of their flexibility in the slot and on the outside. To me, those are the top 2 targets for the San Francisco 49ers as well.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I wrote that yesterday. I did a thing with, top priorities or top free agents the 49ers can go after. And I kind of threw out like a top best case scenario. And then somebody who, maybe if they don't want to spend the big bucks, and DJ Reed was the guy that they're going to spend big money on somebody. I'd like to see them bring him in for the reason you just said. He has that inside outside versatility that the 49ers are going to need, especially with what we saw, the drop off that we saw from K'Von Williams this year. And then if it's not that, somebody else, if they want to go even cheaper, but still have a veteran, Desmond King II from Houston is another DJ Reed type of player. He's not quite as good as Reed, but he can really step in, and he's a really good tackler, which is part of what drew the 49ers to K'Wan Williams when they brought him in the first place.
Yeah, that would be ideal with K'Wan Williams on the way out. You don't want to have that huge drop off in the run defense from the nickel position, which is a rarity. Absolutely a rarity to have a sure tackling nickel cornerback, and definitely one of the advantages that we had with the Shark out there. Terror Dome coming in here. Bobby out? Absolutely not. A Niner staple. Pay the man, keep him in the building. Just to clarify, I brought this in because it ain't about the pay for Bobby, I don't think. I think he does it for the passion. The man's 72. I'm guessing if he leaves, it has nothing to do with wanting more money and everything to do with, at some point, walking away from the game and retiring. But again, nothing is official. I don't want to put that out there. Golden Fang coming in. Look at that trio. Gilmore, Verrett, Mosley. That would be epic. That would be epic if the Niners swung that and Verrett stayed healthy throughout. That would be a phenomenal cornerback room with Ambry Thomas behind that. Goodness gracious, Jack. That's all I have to say about that.
That would be very, very strong.
Yes, it would. As we transition into this next topic, I do want to take a moment to say, hey, if you enjoy the content, please do like the video. Jack's information is down below in the video description. Go down there, follow him on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, and bookmark the Press Democrat in your favorite browser because the articles are fantastic. We got a couple of hard-hitting topics to close out on here. This one is about Jaquiski Tartt. A bit of a polarizing figure at this point in time, I'd say, because of the way in which the final game came down for the San Francisco 49ers. But Jordan Elliott, one of my favorites out there alongside Jack Ham, wrote an article today acknowledging the importance of bringing back Tomlinson and DJ Jones, but pointing to Jaquiski Tartt as the most irreplaceable 49er. And he goes through to talk about the reasons for that. Yes, Tomlinson and DJ Jones are wildly important, but he sees a more viable replacement in Aaron Banks and Javon Kinlaw. But the drop-off from Tartt, he sees as a more precipitous drop, arguing that his play in the box doesn't get the recognition, but it is so consistently special. There's no box score for somebody stopping a run at or near the line of scrimmage as opposed to tackling 6 or 7 yards beyond that. But that Jaquiski Tartt is consistently in the holes, stopping backs at or near the line of scrimmage. And then what he does in coverage doesn't come up with very many turnovers, but Jordan argues that that's because he's taking away opportunities. And again, there's no box score to measure the passes that were not thrown because the coverage was solid. So he puts that out there as being true for both Jimmy Ward and Jaquiski Tartt. And then he goes further to say, hey, when Tartt is off of the field, there's a considerable drop in the defense. There's almost a full touchdown difference in points allowed with versus without Tartt on the field. Jack, would you agree? Is Tartt the most irreplaceable free agent for the 49ers?
No, I don't think he's the most irreplaceable. I don't feel like he is irreplaceable, period. I get where Jordan's coming from. All the points he's making are valid. If we're only looking at the 49ers 2021 roster or before that, he's absolutely 100%. When Jaquiski Tartt's on the field, the 49ers are a better defense. There's no question about it. So that's not what I'm arguing about here. But the fact that he's saying he's irreplaceable, that's not correct. I feel like they could bring in somebody like Justin Reed for $7 million on a 3-year deal, $21 million over 3 years, and get that same kind of play, maybe even a little bit better when you look at what Reed's numbers are and the fact that he's younger and he's been healthy. That's the biggest issue with Jaquiski Tartt is Jaquiski Tartt. I've said this for a while. He is the Jimmy Garoppolo of the 49ers defense, meaning you just cannot be sure that he's going to be on the field. And we've seen it repeatedly where he plays a couple of games and he's out for the year and that kind of thing. So having somebody like Reed come in, Reed's played 85% of the snaps all 4 years. Tartt's never even been close to be able to have that kind of consistency year over year. So I don't feel like he's irreplaceable, but I really do like Jaquiski Tartt. And if the 49ers don't feel like they need to go out, would rather bring him in and bring him back on a $3 million deal, 2.5, whatever his number is, compared to spending a little bit more on a guy like Reed, then I wouldn't be upset about it either, if that makes sense.
It does. And I think that was the contention as well for Jordan was, the cost would be prohibitive for a lot of these suitable replacements. But I do wonder if that's the case. I see a fairly robust safety market, and we'll get into that in just a moment. But just to touch on a couple people's comments, agreeing with some of the names that you threw out there, Tim Cassidy, believing Justin Reed would be a good replacement to bring in for Jaquiski Tartt. And a name that I'm interested in, J510, coming in with Terrell Edmunds from the Steelers. Would be around the same price as Tartt, and he is 5 years younger, doesn't miss games either. No, he has been healthy. I think he's only missed one game over the 4 seasons, was a first-round draft pick, but not quite as consistent, I would say, as Jaquiski Tartt. So when Tartt is on the field, I don't think it's questioned as to whether he can contribute at a higher level than Terrell Edmunds to this point. But you have higher upside with Terrell Edmunds, and the idea that if he's on the field for all 17 games, that gives you an added advantage over a guy who only plays 12 out of 17.
Yeah, exactly. And that's you're hitting all the pieces here, because Tartt's a really good player. Edmunds, Reed, these guys have been more. They've shown that they've been available more. The best ability is availability, and they bring that. And Tartt is a better player, but he just isn't healthy enough, and that's the one issue that we have there.
Absolutely. And I do have to call out Wanda right here for being spot on the money. Tartt and Ward have chemistry from college days. That helps. No doubt it helps when they're both on the field. I mean, to Jordan's article, the numbers do speak for themselves. And I think that if Tartt didn't have the injury history, this would be sort of a no-brainer. He would probably merit a multi-year deal if he didn't have the injury history. But it is that factor that has to be taken into consideration for the San Francisco 49ers. You have a bunch of names available, and I think that that's the easiest way to go about it, is to transition into that final topic and bring some of these names to light. Go ahead, Jack.
Can I throw one more thing out there really quick on Wanda's point about Tartt and Ward having the chemistry? And Absolutely. What you're saying is you're right, because the one game that everybody points to as being so bad for the 49ers and was that Arizona game. And what I think some people forget was that neither one of those two were on the field in that game back in the second time around when they played at Levi's. And that's partly, I think, why the Cardinals were able to go up and down the field on them. And that speaks to the fact that I think there's some overvaluing of a guy like what Talanoa Hufanga brings to the table. I don't feel like he's in that category of a Ward or a Tartt where you can just slide him in there. He's a guy who might eventually get there, but he's not there yet. He's more of a box player and can kind of replace that. But when you get him up on the top, he doesn't have the speed that that a Tartt or a Ward has to cover sideline to sideline. And so that's where you run into the issues. Sorry, I cut into you.
Yes, and I do want to bring in Tim correctly calling it out, Matthew Mears as well, that it was in fact high school where Ward and Tartt played together and not college, because it was Tartt was at Samson. Was that where he played his college ball, I believe?
Yeah, they were at different colleges.
Yes. All right. In transitioning to the talk about filling out the secondary, this one, to me, the way I'm approaching this topic is I believe that the San Francisco 49ers have two really key free agents in the secondary. You could argue a bunch more role players. You might feel differently. You might feel that there are other key free agents. But to me, it's Jaquiski Tartt and K'Waun Williams that are the two biggest pieces the 49ers have to concern themselves with: starting strong safety, starting nickelback. Do you believe that they re-sign either of those gentlemen or both, just first off the bat, Jack?
Which two again? I'm sorry.
Jaquiski Tartt and K'Waun Williams.
Of those two, it would be Tartt, I think, would be the more likely to be brought back. He had a really good season this year. When he was on the field, I know he missed a few games with injury, but he was really good. K'Waun Williams, he showed a little bit of a step back this season. And, he was a guy that they brought back on kind of a 1-year prove-it type of a deal. And I feel like there's some guys that they could bring in to replace him and that would be able to play at the level at which he was playing back in, like, say, 2019, 2017, when they first brought him in.
Yeah, I started to look at options. I agree that in probability, I think it's a higher probability they allow K'Waun Williams to walk and re-sign Jaquiski Tartt. I also think it's a reasonable assertion that they may let both walk and attempt to replace Jaquiski Tartt with someone that they feel to be an upgrade, and the same obviously for K'Wan Williams. When I started to look at cornerback, in looking at the top 150 available free agents according to The Athletic, you have J.C. Jackson, obviously the top available cornerback, but you're looking at the fourth best free agent according to The Athletic, the top cornerback. He is in that neighborhood of getting an $18-20 million per season contract. I just don't think there's any chance the 49ers are involved in that bidding war. That would be my take on it. And Carlton Davis seems to be just a hair below that. The Stephon Gilmore, mention that I had earlier is one. I don't see the next highest one, Darius Williams, as being one. I don't see Charvarius Moore out of Kansas City. But to me, so those are the top five free agent cornerbacks. To me, the only one of those is potentially Stephon Gilmore, and only if he goes for value. The only other name that jumps out to me from free agency is DJ Reed. I mean, would you imagine the Niners are exploring any of those other top five cornerbacks? Are they calling every one of them and just waiting to see if there's value there?
They might be touching base with everybody, but as far as I'm with you on the DJ Reed thing, I think I said this about 2 or 3 weeks ago on Twitter that if the 49ers are going to spend big money on somebody, it needs to be either DJ Reed or Justin Reed, one of those two. Justin Reed's not going to take as much money, I think, as I originally thought when I put that out there. But DJ Reed is a guy who I think, they're valuing him at somewhere in the neighborhood of $12 to $15 million a year, which is a pretty big number. But he's a really good player that can do multiple things for the 49ers. Do the 49ers like Ambry Thomas? I think some of what we're talking about here also, how much do the 49ers like Ambry Thomas and Emmanuel Moseley for the long term?
Right.
Because if they like them for the long term, then you're not going to make any of these moves. You're going to stay with what you have, and it's going to be, somebody more along the lines of at cornerback of the Desmond King that I mentioned earlier, who maybe you're bringing him in just to play the slot instead of having him move inside and out like he was doing last year with Houston, and he's done throughout his career. So it's, when you're talking about filling out the secondary, I think you bring back Jaquiski Tartt if you can get him to come back on a short term deal in that ballpark. I think you also need to have another guy there as well. If you want to go with a Hufanga, okay. And then on the cornerback, it just really depends on how much they like Thomas, because I felt like Thomas is a guy who, when you look at his numbers overall, they don't look that great, but it also that his numbers don't show the improvement that he made from the start to where he finished. Because at the beginning of the season, Thomas was not good, and by the end of the season, he was playing at a much higher level. Are either Moseley or him good enough for the long term? I think we're going to find that out.
That's my question is if we're speculating, Jack, and that's clearly what the Niners would have to do if they're bringing back Ambry Thomas and Emmanuel Moseley as the presumptive starters, if they ignore this position other than adding depth. Would that be a mistake? Would that be a mistake akin to believing Ahkello Witherspoon was going to take the next step?
I would like to see them go ahead and bring back Verrett. I think you need to make some moves around that spot. If Gilmore is willing to come here for a maybe a little bit less of a low below market kind of a deal,
right?
Bring him in. That's smart business, right?
Yes.
You bring in, you put the best team together, especially if Emmanuel Moseley's he's only on a 1-year deal. If you choose not to extend Emmanuel Moseley and you're going to let him play this year out, you need to bring somebody in or have somebody waiting in the wings that can take his spot. And so that would be a good move. I think I'm on board with that move.
I am too. And EMA Beats is with us. I'm for DJ Reed, he says. I love it. Joey Nichols with some free agency advice at Rob Shue. Check out what Rasul Douglas did this year at cornerback for the Packers. He's a free agent and should be a little less expensive than those big names. I will definitely dig a little bit because I'm guessing the Niners are going to be digging a little bit because they do need some depth.
Yeah, Douglas is a guy who, when he was with, he had a big season with Philly the year that they went to the Super Bowl as well.
Right.
So he's a good player that's kind of had some ups and downs, and it just, which guy are you going to get? Are you going to get the guy who's playing at a high level, or are you going to get the guy who comes in and has a down year and isn't quite playing at where up to his capability?
Yes. You got to get people and coax more out of them. You got to give value. Got to get that value. Let's look at safeties to close this thing out, Jack. When I look at the safety market, I see the potential for it to be a soft one because I see a lot of quality safeties. Now, I'm going to read from this list here and preface it by saying that there are a lot of names on this list who played greater snaps at free safety than strong safety, but enough of them did play primarily in the box that it's intriguing. Again, going back to the Athletic top 150 free agents available at this point in time before anybody gets tethered down to their existing teams. Within the top 80 free agents, 9 of those are safeties. 9 in the top 80. Now, Jesse Bates, that level, the first available top free agent, listed 8 overall by the Athletic, probably in the neighborhood of 15 to 17 million per year. I just don't think the Niners are in on anything like that. So no need to go there. But you have Tyrann Mathieu, Marcus Williams from the Saints. You have Quandre Diggs from the Seahawks, Justin Reed from the Texans, Marcus May from the Jets, Jordan Whitehead from the Bucks, Terrell Edmonds from the Steelers, and Jaron Kearse from the Cowboys. Again, a lot of names on there that I'm not interested in, but it's the sheer volume of safeties available that makes me intrigued, that makes me believe that a couple of the targets that I have my eyes on, which would be primarily Terrell Edmonds from the Steelers, because of the fact that he was a guy that never really lived up to his original draft slot. He was 28th overall in the first round in 2018. He just turned 25 in January. He's only missed 1 game in 4 seasons. He was primarily a box safety, but also logged some snaps at slot corner and free safety. So he has some flexibility there. That could be the type of player that the Niners look at and say, it wouldn't take much for him to provide what Tart did, and maybe there's upside there.
Yeah, I feel like there's what you're talking about with all these names reminds me quite a bit of, I don't remember if it was 2012 or 2013 when Deshaun Goldson hit the free agent market, and he was a top guy that a lot of people were worried about was going to leave. And there were a lot of safeties in that class with him that year. And because there were so many guys on the market, his value, he didn't find what he was looking for, and he came back to the 49ers and it helped them out. And I kind of think that's going to be the case this year as well. There's just so many guys out there. It's going to drive down the what they're able to get on the market, yes. Especially
supply
after
and demand.
Exactly. Especially after your top 1 or 2. And so that's where you have Reed, you have the player from Pittsburgh. That's another one. There's definitely some good names on that list that I feel the 49ers could help the 49ers out if they decide to move on from Jaquiski Tart.
Yeah, Jordan Whitehead is another one that would interest me, right? I mean, another guy that over 4 seasons has started 55 games, a box safety, and not that top tier. If you had, let's say that a lot of those top names go, and you're looking at, according to The Athletic, you have a bunch of these guys right in a row. From 76 through 80, it's 5 safeties all next to each other. Justin Reed, Marcus May, Jordan Whitehead, Terrell Edmonds, and then Jaron Kearse. I'm taking a Cowboy out of it because I just don't want you to say a Cowboy, and so we're taking him out of it. If we had those 4 available, Jordan Whitehead, Terrell Edmonds, Justin Reed, Marcus May, and let's say Jaquiski Tart is still available, are you trying to upgrade, or are you going the less expensive route? If Tart's the least expensive of those 5, are you bringing Tart back, or are you making the switch?
I'd probably keep Tart. The thing with Tart, and we're talking, you've mentioned a couple of times about, the box safety piece, but one of the things that makes Tart so good is that he plays really good at the height, the one high safety as well, which allows them to bring, to play the other guy, play Hufanga. But sometimes when they have all 3 of those safeties on the field, Hufanga, Ward, and Tart, it's usually Tart that's playing the single high safety, and it's Ward and Hufanga that are playing down inside. Usually because Ward's playing man on somebody, and then Hufanga's kind of playing a quasi linebacker role. So
right.
I think that if that's one of the tough pieces, because I'm not sure if there's anybody that's on the market that can do what Tart brings to the 49ers. Even as much as I like Justin Reed and his ability to go sideline to sideline, he's more of a free safety than a strong safety. how much can he kind of allow? How much would he be able to play? Up top and down in the box as well, and that kind of thing. So, if Tard's able to come back for I'd say $3 million or less, then I think that's the move that you make.
Yeah.
They have Hufanga for the long term. Maybe they're going to try to develop him. Who knows what they have there? But if they can get Reed, you go with the Reed. If they can't get Reed, you go to Tart. That's my opinion and kind of the railroad that I'm leading myself down at this point.
I like it because I think you get the value there if you can bring back Tart at the reasonable rate. And you do have, let me preface this by saying it would be a terrible idea for the Niners to get cheap and just say, well, we've got Tavarius Moore coming off the Achilles and Hufanga, and we'll just let them compete. And one of them will, in camp, decide that they're the better safety, and they'll show themselves. That would be a huge mistake. But if they get cheap in the way of, well, Tart is going to be available. Yes, there are health concerns. He may only start 12 games, but he will start 12 games, and we have Tavarius Moore and Talanoa Hufanga to fill in for those smaller sample size of games that he may miss. To me, that's more of an acceptable game plan to go in to the season, because I do think the Niners are going to get tight on cap dollars, and every million they can save here or there is a valuable $1 million. I love this list of young, talented safeties. I'm intrigued by the idea of attempting to upgrade, but I also found Jordan's article to be very compelling. And I certainly agree with what you're saying here, Jack, which is also something Jordan highlighted. Tart's ability to both play up inside the box, be a hard-hitting safety, and his speed and range to be able to cover on the back end. So I got to say, I like your plan, Jack. I like the idea of attempting to bring back Tart on an inexpensive contract. I think that sets up the 49ers secondary to then spend a few extra dollars on one of these cornerbacks that we're talking about. And that seems like the more important piece, bringing in someone to upgrade at that slot position and having someone who has flexibility like a Stephon Gilmore or a DJ Reed could be the answer to provide depth at both of those positions, inside the nickel and outside as well. I always like it when we agree, Jack. It makes me feel good.
Yeah, it's good. That's the thing. We have sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't.
Yes.
Regardless, we come at you, a couple old guys here, like Eric said earlier in the show, So let me get my ARP card out and
waving our canes as we rattle cages. Indeed. All right. Hans is doing the good deed. Like and subscribe. Please do, people. It means a great deal to me. It means a great deal to Jack. You are helping us. We have our own little pirate radio station right here. If you've ever seen the movie Pump Up the Volume with Christian Slater, that's us. Talk hard, baby. We are the pirate radio station, and your likes, your subscribes, your comments help us boost the signal. So again, Jack's information is down below in the description of the video. To like and subscribe to me right now is easy as pie. You just hit a couple of little buttons and screens and whatnot, and boom, there you are. Jack, as always, my Fridays are just that much better because I get to spend time talking with you, good sir.
Thanks, and that's why I like talking. That's how I get through Monday, because I get to do it with you over on my channel. So it's perfect.
Yes, indeed. We will be back. The timing for Monday may be different. I'm going to be out at the Combine in Indianapolis, so it is very important this week that you follow me on Twitter at The Left Shoe, because I'll let you know when I'm going to go live. I'll let you know when I'm going to be with Jack, and follow Jack. You can see his little handle there at JackHammer_NFL. That's where you follow him, so you can find out when we're going live on his channel, because we will be going live, and I will have updates from Indy. We are going to try and bring you into the experience, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we're going to do.
There you go. Looking forward to it.
Exciting stuff. As always, I hope you enjoy your weekend. I'm going to attempt to get a call-in show going. Jack provided me with a fantastic media piece that allows me to cover up the video on that side so that anybody can call in. I'm looking to get that going this weekend. Jack, do you have any shows on the docket for this weekend, or not until Monday?
No, I'm looking to do a call-in show tomorrow myself. I didn't get a chance. I was just busy with some other things today, and I wasn't able to get on and do my normal Friday show with Coach Johnston. So just to kind of get content on my channel, I like to have a call-in show, talk to some folks. Those are always fun shows. So I was thinking of trying to do that tomorrow
Beautiful. So tune in to Jack tomorrow. That settles it for me. I'm going to do mine Sunday before I depart for Indianapolis Monday. For mine on Sunday, bring your questions about the combine because I need information. I need candidates to interview. I need people to keep my eye on. So bring your information. And again, look for me bringing on a new guest with Jamal Armstrong next week. As always, faithful, it is a pleasure having this dialogue with you. We will see you again soon. Jack and I will be back on his channel Monday. Until then, cheers, Niner faithful.